Flying in the air, Han Sen summoned the mutant sawfish spear and cast it down at Qin Xuan like how a fisherman would use a harpoon. The lion that Qin Xuan had turned into reached out a claw and hit the spear hard. The spear as thick as an arm bent and bounced off. Fortunately, the spear was tough enough so that it wasn't broken under her claw. Han Sen took back his mutant sawfish spear and watched her from above, not intending to attack again or to land. Everyone suddenly came to understand that Dollar was trying to consume Qin Xuan's shapeshifting time. Shapeshifting beast souls required a lot of energy to use. Even Qin Xuan couldn't stay like this for very long, or it would hurt her body. So shameless. Do you call yourself a man? What do you know? It's tactics. If she could fly as well, then good for her. There was suddenly a chaos on the stands. Some supported Dollar and some Qin Xuan. Qin Xuan simply could not reach Han Sen. She quickly dismissed the shapeshifting beast soul. But the moment she did that, Han Sen flew down and slashed his katana at her. Qin Xuan had met a lot of strong enemies, but she had never been as depressed as she was at this moment. Once she shapeshifted, Han Sen would immediately fly into the sky. When she turned into herself, Han Sen would then rush down. She became sullen as she couldn't make use of her own strength. Haha, Dollar is just great. He is fighting like a gorilla. He is bullying her. Qin Xuan is almost crying. Shameless scum. How can a man be so brazen? Unabashed, Han Sen believed it did not matter how he won as long as he won. If he could go to the contest among the champions of all the shelters and rank top 10, he would be rewarded a sacred blood beast soul. He would definitely try his best for that sake. Qin Xuan did not expect that Dollar would sink so low to make her unable to use her power. Now she was only happy that Dollar was not an archer, or she would be even more miserable. Dollar, you are a dignified man. Do you dare to fight me head on? Qin Xuan wanted to prod Dollar into action. Unfortunately, Han Sen ignored her intention and replied, "You are a soldier. Don't you understand that victory is all that matters? Even if I let you win today, what if you encounter champions of other shelters who could fly? Do you expect to persuade them to give up their ability to fly as well?" Qin Xuan paused, and people who accused Han Sen of being shameless also lowered their voices. In fact, they should have thought of this. There had been more than one person who could fly among the chosen before. Not being able to fly was a weakness of Qin Xuan's, and even if she won today, others might still choose to exploit that in the future. Many people who supported Qin Xuan kept silent. Qin Xuan smiled wryly. "Well, I give up. We do not have to go on." Qin Xuan knew that she had such a fatal weakness, but did not think Dollar would be so brazen to use that to his advantage. Now that she had no way of winning, she chose to throw in the towel instead of staying in this awkward match. Qin Xuan now regretted that she did not work hard on archery, or she could have used an advanced beast soul bow and arrow to beat Dollar. "You can pick up the S-class license of St. Hall at Steel Armor Gang," Qin Xuan said, and left the martial ring, which made Han Sen this year's champion of Steel Armor Shelter. Dollar's victory was very controversial. A lot of people thought it was not honorary, but Han Sen didn't mind his reputation as long as he could win the sacred blood beast soul given to the chosen. Qin Xuan left in good grace, but she had also set Han Sen up. If he went to pick up the S-class license at Steel Armor Gang, she might be ready to ambush him. Han Sen knew her so well that he didn't dare to pick up the license under her nose, as he knew she must be quite upset with him. The contest in Steel Armor Shelter was officially over. The top 100 all had their names on the martial steel in the martial ring. The first name there was Dollar. Han Sen hoped that no one would call him Doll again. However, many still did. All the shelter champions would start to compete in 10 days. By then everyone in First God's Sanctuary could see the match taking place in the chosen martial ring. The top 10 participants would each gain a random sacred blood beast soul, and be named the chosen. If one had been the chosen for the second or more time, one would no longer be awarded more sacred blood beast souls, but an upgrade to one's beast soul awarded the first time. Many of the chosen would just go into the entertainment industry and become a star. Countless agents and companies would try to sign the chosen with a large chunk of money. Unfortunately, the 10 chosen were normally the same persons from last year. Fresh faces would only have an opportunity once they evolved and went to Second God's Sanctuary. Han Sen decided to use the time to train himself in the teleport station. The gravity trainer was indeed a wonderful training device which had helped Han Sen a lot. He could push himself really far in a short amount of time inside it and practice Jadeskin much more efficiently. He would then complete the training tasks assigned by Young Manly and use the rest of the time to play Hand of God. Han Sen was not sure what Gambler meant by pass. He thought he had to clear all levels, but in fact what Gambler meant was just to pass the beginner level. That was why Han Sen felt terrible that he still hadn't been able to pass the beginner level in so long. This game is so demanding on my dexterity of the entire arm and my control of muscles and bones. If I use Jade Skin when I play, I should be able to improve my score greatly. Han Sen tried it, and his scores indeed boomed. On the 6th day, he was able to level up for the first time. Han Sen was still vexed with the fact that it took him so long to pass the beginner level, and he even had to use Jade Skin. However, if Gambler knew Han Sen had already passed beginner level, he would be so shocked that his chin should fall to the ground. He was not sure who it would be and answered the call hesitantly. Beyond Han Sen's expectation, popped up in the holographic image was Tang Zhenliu. Surprise. Tang laughed. It sure is. What's up? Han Sen asked. I need a favor from you, Tang said. Let's hear it. I am just a nobody and may not be able to help you, Han Sen said with a smile. You sure can. It has to be you, too. But no worries, you could name your price, Tang Zhenliu said. What favor exactly? Han Sen cringed. Let's talk about it in person. Are you home now? I'll pick you up, Tang said hurriedly. No need. Tell me the place and I'll go to see you. Han Sen felt strange. Tomorrow was when the contest would start. What was Tang doing looking for Han Sen rather than preparing himself? Is it about the contest? Han Sen guessed and felt it necessary to figure out what Tang was up to. When Han Sen arrived at the place Tang Zhenliu told him, he saw Fang Jinky was also there. Tang led Han Sen into the living room. After entering the living room, Han Sen saw that on the sofa sat a young man, who was very quiet and did not speak when he saw Han Sen coming in. Tang, what do you need me for? Han Sen asked directly. Brother, look at this first. Instead of answering Han Sen's question, Tang played a video. The scene was shot in a martial ring. A man in combat suit was surrounded by a group of people wearing masks. The moment Han Sen saw the man, he shuddered, although it was just through the holographic image. Then the video began. Under the siege, the man started a gorgeous murder show. It was a slaughter. In 1 minute and 23 seconds, the man in combat suit was holding nothing but a dagger. He had killed a total of 34 people, each in one strike. No one survived, and no one could stand up again after taking his strike. The man was like death himself, harvesting lives casually. This person is a lot like you. After the video was played, Tang looked at Han Sen and said, That's not me, Han Sen said quietly. Of course it's not you, but you fight in the same style. Before you strike, there is no warning or signs. But the strike itself was fast and fierce, with perfect timing. You are both assassins, Tang concluded. Although Tang had not fought Han Sen, he was a great fighter and discovered many things when he was playing that drinking game with Han Sen. So, Han Sen frowned. This person is called Yi Dongmu, grandson of Senator Yi, who is demigod. This year he is the champion of Tsar Shelter. In other words, he is one of my competitors, Tang explained. What do you want me to do? Disable him so that he cannot participate in the contest. I am sorry, but I do not have that kind of skills. Han Sen spread out his hands. Of course not. He is the grandson of Senator Yi. Even we couldn't approach him easily, let alone you. We could never assassinate him. In the Alliance, wherever he goes, he's always closely guarded. Tang said, We have invited you here because we want you to imitate Yi Dongmu's tactics and spar with us. Truth be told, I really have no confidence to block his weird strikes, and you can help us get used to his style. What's in it for me? Han Sen did not decline. Tang pondered, moved his lips but didn't speak. They were basically asking Han Sen to teach them how to beat himself, so it was very hard to name the price. If Han Sen was someone important, they would not even have asked, as it could be perceived as provocative. We can try our best to accommodate whatever you propose, Fang Jinky said. An S-class license of St. Hall. Han Sen paused and said, Deal. Tang replied so fast that Han Sen felt that he might have asked for too little. Maybe he should have said 2 S-class licenses. But Han Sen had always been an optimist. 1 S-class license was a great price already, and what they asked him to do helped himself in turn as well, as Yi Dongmu might be his opponent as well. I have to say this before we start. My skills are inferior to his. Even if you could parry my attacks, you might still be stabbed by him, said Han Sen. I know. Here are some videos of him fighting. Watch carefully and then we will start. We don't have much time left, and we can only hope that our first opponent won't be him so that we'd have more time to practice. Tang Zhenliu sat on the couch and joined Lin Feng, leaving Han Sen to watch the videos himself. Han Sen watched one video after another. None of the videos were shot officially. Han Sen felt this trip was worth it, because if he encountered Yi Dongmu without knowing his style, he might be killed in the match. Indeed, they shared the same style. The difference was that Han Sen had formed the style himself, while he clearly had a great mentor. Although time is limited, none of Tang Zhenliu, Fang Jinky and Lin Feng asked Han Sen to hurry. They let Han Sen repeatedly watch the footages. Han Sen sometimes would replay some details several times. They had taught him a lot through these videos, which meant more to Han Sen than an S-class license. In just less than 4 hours, Han Sen felt as if he had been through a revolutionary change. However, after full understanding Yi's way of fighting, Han Sen was surprised to find that although Yi's strikes looked terrifying, there were subtle defects to his style, and only those who deeply understood this style would be aware of these defects. Tang was getting impatient and wanted to interrupt Han Sen, but Lin Feng the quiet man stopped him. It was in the evening when Han Sen had finished with the videos. Let's get started. Han Sen got up and said, well, let me see how well you can imitate Yi. Tang took Han Sen into a combat room in the villa. Han Sen grabbed a dagger the same shape of Yi's dagger. Its edge was not sharpened and its blade was retractable, so that no one would get hurt. The way Yi Dongwu and Han Sen fought required them to do their best with each strike. If real weapons were used, Tang was afraid that he would be injured by Han Sen. Let's begin. Tang tightly watched Han Sen and did not step back. They wanted to practice how to parry Yi's strikes after being approached by him. Han Sen approached Tang, holding a dagger backhandedly, a way he had learned from Yi. 2 feet away from Tang, Han Sen suddenly wielded the dagger and stabbed it at him from an unexpected angle. Fang Jinky was shocked, and the quiet man's eyes lit up. Tang was covered in cold sweat and it was too late to parry that attack with his broadsword. He abruptly turned sideways but was still stabbed in the waist. *T. Your strike was not that different from his, Tang called out, staring at Han Sen. Fang Jinky looked at Han Sen with a strange look and the quiet man's eyes also fell on Han Sen's hands. Han Sen was surprised himself as well. He was practicing Jadeskin madly these days, and practicing Hand of God had also enhanced his speed. In addition, he just saw Yi's way of fighting and had some new insights. Now his strike was so powerful that he couldn't believe it himself. Haha, God loves me. With you sparring with me, you will be no big deal. Tang laughed out loud. For a whole night, none went to bed, but the only one who was practicing with Han Sen was Tang. Fang Jinky didn't register in the contest and the quiet man was just watching and did not meant to join them. Having practiced for a night, Tang could not avoid Han's dagger as long as Han Sen was within a foot from him. Tang didn't develop a way to defend himself, while Han Sen was getting better and better. *T. I give up. There is no way to parry your attacks. Maybe I'm doomed, Tang said sullenly, as he saw it was about time to go to God's sanctuary for the contest, and there was no point in going on. Now you are able to deal with Yi, Lin Feng, who had been watching in silence, suddenly said. Lin, what do you mean? Asked Tang, sitting up straight and staring at Lin Feng. Yi Dongwu is not as good as him. You can't parry his strikes, but with Yi you would be able to avoid being stabbed in fatal parts. If your luck is not too bad and run into Yi in a few days instead of today, you could block Yi's strikes at a very small price. Hearing this remark from Lin Feng, Tang and Fang all looked Han Sen, appalled. They knew Lin Feng well and was shocked that he would speak so highly of Han Sen by saying that Yi Dongwu was not as good. Han Sen's background was much inferior to Yi and he was probably also older, yet Lin Feng said Yi Dongwu was not as good as Han Sen. If the remark was from another person, they would certainly have scoffed, but they knew Lin Feng and he was never wrong. Last year, the only reasons he was not the first place were that he hadn't broken the bottleneck in his hyper-geno art, and that he entered God's sanctuary 2 years later than his opponent. No need to look at him that way. I'm just saying his style is better than Yi Dongwu's, but his fitness was still inferior to Yi, of course. Lin Feng smiled and reached a hand out to Han Sen. I am Lin Feng. Very pleased to know you. You are an interesting person. Han Sen. A pleasure. Han Sen shook his hand, smiled and said, well, it is late. Let's shower and teleport. Tang interrupted the eye contact between Han Sen and Lin Feng. He turned to ask Han Sen, there is a teleport device here. You want to join us? No, I did not register so I will not go. Han Sen declined and left. Watching Han Sen leaving the villa, Tang asked Lin Feng, is he really so good? He's better than you think. If he had the same background as he would be 100 times more impressive than the latter. He understands the essence of assassination, while he only has some skills. His growth was limited by his background, but he will be well known in a few years, commented Lin Feng. Such high praise from Lin. He must really be something, Fang Jinky said. In a few years, will he surpass you? Tang was interested. In First God's Sanctuary, I am invincible, said Lin Feng casually, exuding confidence. Han Sen went to the teleport station, entered God's Sanctuary, dressed himself as Dollar and entered the martial ring. In the middle of the martial ring erected a giant sacred steel that was 100 times more magnificent than the martial steel. Under the watch of people from Steel Armor Shelter, Han Sen marched into the sacred steel and was teleported to a huge martial ring, chosen martial ring. In all the shelters of God's sanctuary, there was a similar sacred steel from which the image of chosen martial ring was projected. At this moment, champions from all the shelters were entering chosen martial ring from the sacred steel. Han Sen realized how large the population of the alliance was and how large First God's sanctuary was when he entered chosen martial ring. Every shelter had about 100,000 people like Steel Armor Shelter, and everyone in chosen martial ring now was the champion of their own shelter. The stands were almost filled with at least 100,000 champions, which meant there were at least 100,000 shelters in First God's sanctuary. It was a dizzying figure indeed. After humans entered the interstellar era, they had conquered lots of habitable planets and had been thriving. Now the humankind was so huge that only Shuras could compete. Among the champions of all shelters, Dollar was the most famous one, in addition to the chosen from last year. That video of Dollar fighting Golden Horn Shura was so viral that all mainstream media had covered it, so Dollar had become a household name in the alliance. Many people were curiously looking at Han Sen, as they wondered how Dollar really was. But it was mostly just curiosity. They had all watched the video starring Han Sen. Although the storyline was impressive, Dollar didn't really show much strength at that time. His sacred blood beast souls were great, but he himself not so much. Han Sen at that time would be very far behind among the champions of all shelters. After all, these people were 1 in 100,000 with great physiques and advanced beast souls. It hadn't been long since Han Sen fought the Shura, so no one believed he could have made much progress. People mostly just wondered about him and didn't treat him as a fierce rival. When the channel into chosen martial ring was closed, the match list finally appeared on the sacred steel. The names on the list were the ones the champions left on the martial steels. Han Sen quickly searched the list for Dollar and he found it very soon. The words stood out to him for some reason and others had found their own names as well. In this contest among the champions, a one-on-one model was adopted and the winner of the two would enter the next round, so the list was like a pyramid. Han Sen was relieved to see both Tang Zhenliu and Lin Feng were arranged far from him and there was no chance they would meet before top 10. Han Sen scanned the list again and another name caught his eye. Yi Dongmu. He used his real name. Han Sen saw the name Yi Dongmu and followed his path. He was suddenly startled. If he and he could both win all the way, they would fight for the chance to become the chosen. So in order for Han Sen to gain the sacred blood beast soul, he must beat Yi. Tang Zhenliu was afraid of Yi, while I was the one who met him. Yi Dongmu, your luck is no good. If Tang didn't come to me, I might lose to you. But now it's different. Maybe I am chosen, Han Sen thought happily. Perhaps others would be afraid of Yi, but he was confident he could beat Yi after watching the videos. Chosen martial ring was divided into 1,000 stages stacked on top of one another. Each time 1,000 pairs could fight at the same time. Han Sen was in a late match, so he went to see other matches first, especially the one he was in. He had to know how much better Yi was getting compared to his performance in the videos. Yi Dongmu's match in this round was also rather late. Han Sen watched a few matches and was surprised as no one was to be taken lightly in this contest. He also watched Tang Zhenliu's first match. His opponent stood no chance under his fierce broadsword skills. After Tang shapeshifted, his opponent was barely fighting back. Tang's techniques and strength were both outstanding in the contest. Lin Feng, whom Han Sen was paying even more attention to, also won his match, while Han Sen didn't really understand the way he won. His opponent was a nobody, but Lin Feng only won by a narrow margin. Han Sen could even imagine that in the reports next day, Lin Feng's opponent would be described as had a glorious failure. But for some reason, Lin Feng made Han Sen feel more threatened than Tang did. Finally, it was Yi Dongmu's turn. He was not well known at the moment. Although he was the grandson of Senator Yi, only a few people knew he was in the contest. After all, this was his first contest. However, his opponent was a celebrity who ranked number 10 last time, nicknamed Dragon Swordsman. Dragon Swordsman was very handsome and had great sword skills. With lots of female fans in the alliance, he enjoyed great popularity among all the chosen. Dragon Swordsman's match was naturally high profile. A lot of people thought that he had a chance of being top 3 this year and all the girls were cheering for him. Few paid attention to Yi Dongmu, his opponent. But 10 seconds from the match started, everyone was shocked. Before Dragon Swordsman drew his sword, Yi Dongmu's knife had cut his throat. Watching Dragon Swordsman clutching his own neck in pain and collapsing, the audience were silent. His female fans were covered in tears with hands on their mouths, not accepting what they saw. One of the chosen last year, Dragon Swordsman was killed in his first match. That would sure become the headline next morning. This was all it took for Yi to be known throughout the alliance. Han Sen was calm. Although Yi had made some progress, the well-born kid still did not understand the essence of assassination. It was Han Sen's turn. His opponent was a guy called Lei Ban. The moment Han Sen got on the stage, Lei Ban summoned a beast soul bow and 3 beast soul arrows and shot all 3 arrows at him. The 3 arrows almost flew to Han Sen at the same time. Han Sen was surprised. Lei Ban was at least as good at archery as him, and even had better techniques than him. Judging from the look of his bow, it was likely a sacred blood beast soul bow, and 2 of the 3 arrows were dark green, so they were probably poisonous like his mutant black stinger arrow. The 3rd arrow was made from blue crystal and sounded as if it could tear air apart when it was in the air, which suggested it could be a sacred blood beast soul arrow. Sure enough, there is no one weak here. Han Sen swiftly dodged the strongest blue crystal arrow and summoned his mutant sawfish spear to ward off the other 2 arrows. Han Sen felt a bash as the arrows in his spear collided. The spear almost fell from his hand. Excellent archer and weapons, thought Han Sen in awe. He squeezed the spear and approached Lei Ban. Lei Ban was not only fast, but was also able to shoot while running. The arrows were not affected by his movement at all. Unable to trap Lei Ban with his spear, Han Sen had to run after Lei Ban while dodging his arrows. Han Sen had a lot of respect for this opponent, who had much better footwork than him and could shoot arrows in all positions when moving with both great strength and accuracy. Han Sen had also worked hard on archery, but he was only able to shoot when standing still. His accuracy would suffer a lot if he tried to move. Lei Ban was indeed much stronger than him in archery, so Han Sen was not in a hurry to end the match. Instead, he started to observe his opponent and learn from him. Han Sen's match had also attracted a lot of people's attention. After all, Dollar was popular, but compared with Yi Dongmu, his performance was less than impressive. More than half an hour had passed and they were still running after each other, rendering the audience drowsy. In First God's Sanctuary, people were quite disappointed in Dollar, except for his hardcore fans. Since a match with an unknown person had cost him so much effort, Dollar didn't seem to have what it took to become the chosen. When the match had been going on for more than an hour, Han Sen shapeshifted into the Bloody Slayer, approached Lei Ban and beat him in a close combat, which Lei was not good at. The same day, all major media in the Alliance had covered the contest. Although there was no image, the reporters managed to depict the matches vividly with words. Their main focus was on Yi Dongmu's match. Yi's background was also published. The grandson of Senator Yi, who had graduated with stellar grades from the best posh school before entering God's Sanctuary. His background and his sekal of dragon swordsman made him a major contender this year. The victory of Tang had also made him a favorite. Another top contestant was Lin Feng. His match, however, benefited his opponent, who was considered to have lost by a narrow margin by the media. There were articles on Han Sen too, but they were rather short in general. The longer ones were all focused on the disappointment in Dollar. Most of the reports were filled with phrases like narrow win, work to be done, hard to live up to the reputation and to be improved. The negative reports about Dollar were overwhelming, and in particular, the high praise Fang Mingquan sang in contest center fanned the flames. Fang Mingquan was talking through his hat. As an evolver who could not even enter First God's Sanctuary, he managed to analyze so much from his reporter's oral account alone. In general, he was saying Dollar was invincible, everything was in control and Dollar would be the final winner. This of course had attracted much hatred toward Fang Mingquan in Contest Center. It chanced that although Dollar's matches were never fun to watch, he had never lost either, which supported Fang's claim. The criticism got worse and worse, especially those who were optimistic about Yi Dongmu were sniffy about everything Fang said and objected each day. Yi Dongmu was still keeping a formidable record. In 2 consecutive rounds he was able to kill his opponents in one blow, causing many of his following opponents to quit the matches against him. In 3 consecutive rounds, all his opponents threw in the towel, which made Yi's fame peak. Lin Feng had asked someone to meet him in the final, yet that someone was not Yi Dongmu, but Dollar, who was considered an imposter. All major media had reported this, and Fang Mingquan from Contest Center was especially excited about it and had analyzed it from all angles. His conclusion was that Dollar was simply great, but obviously the major media and fans didn't share his enthusiasm. They thought Lin Feng wanted to gain popularity by participating in the grandstanding because he was no longer the center of attention. Rubbish. Lin was the runner-up last year, but he had no vision. No wonder he was only the runner-up. Let him keep his ranking and be second to my Yi Dongmu this time. Keep his ranking. You think too much of him. He'd have to be lucky to make it in top 10. Lin and Dollar are just two weak guys feeling bad about themselves. Haha, Yidong will get rid of Dollar in seconds before he beats Lin to show them who the real king is. What the heck? If Lin was going to see someone in the final, it should be Yidong. How is Lucky D relevant? The Skynet had exploded for this matter. However, Lin Feng and Han Sen, the two who had caused it, did not realize this at all. One was enjoying tea with Tang Zhenliu and Fang Jinky, and the other was playing Hand of God in the gym of the teleport station. The next day, Han Sen had an easy victory once again. His opponent still had not recovered from a bad injury and failed to show up. Han Sen walked down the stage and wanted to see Lin Feng's match, but someone stopped him. I hope tomorrow you will have the guts to stand in front of me, because I will kill you. Yidong said coldly and walked past Han Sen without so much as throwing him a glance. Almost everyone who saw this went crazy. Yidong's words caused another storm on the Skynet. Basically everyone was guessing if tomorrow Dollar would dare to show up. The majority predicted that Dollar would quit. After all, the difference between the two was huge. Yidong's performance had been outstanding, and he had even killed several celebrity rivals, including Dragon Swordsman, who had the 10th place last year. Dollar, on the other hand, had a rough journey, and he was here more for his luck than for his actual strength. Except for Fang Mingquan, who predicted Dollar would get a total victory, almost all TV personnel believed Dollar would either quit or die. On the day of the match, the martial rings in all shelters were packed with people who were waiting to watch the match through the sacred steel. This was absolutely the most controversial fight in the entire contest this year, and people called it the fight between the king and the imposter. Almost everyone in First God's Sanctuary was watching, and the number of viewers was even bigger than that of the final last year. The popularity of this match was in part due to Contest Center and Fang Mingquan, or else there wouldn't be so many people who were paying attention to Dollar, and the media would not have cooked up such a hype. The field reporters all wished to interview Yidong and Dollar before they started. Although there was no way to record it, it was enough that everyone in the First God's Sanctuary could see it at such a crucial moment. On the stage, Yidong coldly stared at Han Sen and said in a flat voice, "Well, since you dare to come, then get ready to die." Drawing the dagger from his waist, he had a murderous look on his face. "Do you think this is some kung fu movie?" Han Sen scoffed inwardly. He didn't believe someone would actually say such dramatic words in real life. Han Sen did not reply, but shapeshifted into the Bloody Slayer, grabbed the hilt of the Shura katana and ran toward Yidong. The Bloody Slayer had a great speed and was as fast as a fighter aircraft at its full speed. Instantaneously, Dollar was in his face. The viewers all wondered whether Dollar had lost his mind to approach Yi, who was best at close combat. Almost no one could avoid his fatal blow after being approached by him. Wow, Dollar is nuts. He not only approached Yi, but was also using a katana. At least use your spear so that you can keep the distance. A misstep by Dollar. He should have come with a bow and arrows. Even if he doesn't know archery, shooting down from the above is 1,000 times better than getting close to Yi. Yi's fans were overjoyed. This idiot wanders so willingly into Yi's lap. It would be hard not to beat him. Yidong sneered and shapeshifted into a mutant monkey more than 6 feet tall with a thick tail, which greatly improved his strength and speed. Yidong had a sacred blood shapeshifting beast soul as well, but it was not similar to the shape of a human body. If he could not use his skills and sacred blood dagger, the sacred blood shapeshifting beast soul would do more harm than good. There were few creatures that had the shape close to human, and even fewer that looked human, except for that sacred blood beast soul in the shape of a lady that was awarded to the chosen. There was hardly any sacred blood beast soul that takes human form. Han Sen's Bloody Slayer was a precious sacred blood shapeshifting beast soul because it had a pair of human hands that allowed him to use all sorts of techniques. Yidong watched Han Sen bolting toward him and gave his dagger a harder grip. He held the sacred blood dagger backhanded and launched his body at Han Sen. The distance between the two was shorter and shorter. All the moves of Yidong fell in the eyes of Han Sen, who felt every stretch and twist of his opponent had followed his expectation. He could see through Yi as if he was no more than a puppet. Between two assassins, if one was much better, something like this would happen. Han Sen knew everything about Yi while Yi didn't even know Han Sen was good at sneak attacks as well, and that had determined Yi's loss. It did not matter that his speed and strength were both greater than Han Sen. When the two clashed, the katana painted golden by Han Sen moved and was suddenly returned to its sheath. The movements of the weapon were as smooth as floating clouds in flowing water. They continued sliding nearly 30 feet in opposite directions before they stopped. Han Sen's magnificent body was as steady as a mountain, while Yidong slowly turned around and stared at Han Sen's back. He stressed each syllable. "What is that skill called?" "Blade Storm." Han Sen replied without looking back. "I will fight you again, and next time I will not lose, he said and walked down the stage. The moment he went down, he fell to the ground with a thump. Blood was welling from a cut in his chest so deep that his bones could be seen. The entire First God's Sanctuary went quiet. Billions of viewers of the match opened their mouths but could not make a sound. No one could believe that the result would be like this. They could accept it if it was the other way. But Idongu, who was invincible like a king, was defeated by Dollar in one blow, which was hard to swallow. Not to mention his fans. Even Dollar's fans had never thought that Dollar could win like this. Even the optimistic ones believed it would at least take Dollar quite some effort to win. But no one thought that he would lose in such a shameful way, and in his strong suit, close combat. Han Sen turned his head back and looked at Idongu, who was struggling to get back on his feet. He said calmly, "Not bad. You survived a serious strike from me." Han Sen turned away. "Not bad, not bad." This sentence blew all the viewers' minds. In the eyes of the public, Dollar's figure suddenly became more and more grand and brilliant. Dollar's fans finally came to realization of what had happened and started shouting and jumping up and down. The silence was broken and the entire First God's Sanctuary became festive. Everyone was talking about this incredible fight that went down pretty fast. Haha, in your face, yous fans. Not just the fans, but also the media and the entire alliance, except for Fang Minquin's contest center. Y'all thought he was gonna win. How about this? He is beat before even getting to top 10. Now think about it. Fang Minquin sure had some vision. His analysis actually made a lot of sense. We were just blinded by Idongu's performance and didn't listen. Lin Feng is the visionary one. No wonder he was the runner-up last year. He knew this long ago. Haha, it seems this year it will be between Lin Feng and Dollar. We really owe Fang Minquin and Dollar an apology. Fang Minquin was wronged. Not bad. Haha, what a line. A match that took less than 10 seconds had changed Dollar's image completely. What a line. Next time I have to try it. Not bad. You survived a serious strike from me. Tang regretted that it was not him who came up with the line. That will be all for now. I hope you find this story interesting. Leave a like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you won't miss the next part of this story. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.